Coming up this week on the Inside Travel Talk podcast, Mark joins us from Norway after an incredible overnight sleeper train journey through Sweden and into the Arctic Circle. We'll talk about one of the most scenic drives in the world and what Americans need to know before traveling to Europe. Then later in the show, we dive into one of the most remote and fascinating places on Earth, the Marquesas Islands in French Polynesia. Plus, in our cruise segment, Viking is adding a dozen new ships. We'll talk about surviving sea days on longer cruises, and Mark invites all of our listeners to join him on a hosted British Isles cruise in 2027. That's all coming up right now on Inside Travel Talk.
The Inside Travel Talk podcast and radio show presented by BluePlanetVacations.com contains travel deals, promotions, and offers that may be time-sensitive. All offers and information were accurate when the show aired. Travel deals and offers change constantly and are capacity-controlled and subject to change without notice.
Explore your world. It's the Inside Travel Talk podcast and radio show, presented by BluePlanetVacations.com. Call or text the show now, 801-649-3700, 801-649-3700, and check out the podcast at InsideTravelTalk.com.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Inside Travel Talk podcast. I'm Justin, and as always, I'm joined by Mark Falmo from Blue Planet Vacations. Mark is actually joining us today from Norway, which is pretty cool because you are literally in the middle of a family history trip right now.
I am, and this has been one of those trips that just keeps getting better every single day. We are up in northern Norway right now in Narvik, which is in the Arctic Circle. And after we finish recording this show, we're driving south toward Motion, where part of my family history is from. This area is absolutely stunning. It's dramatic mountains, deep fjords, waterfalls everywhere, little villages tucked along the coastline. It's one of the most scenic drives I've ever done.
And yesterday you had one of those travel experiences that people remember forever. You took the overnight sleeper train from Stockholm up to Narvik in the north of Norway.
Yeah, and honestly, I highly recommend it. It was about an 18-hour train ride, which sounds intimidating until you do it. The sleeper compartments are comfortable. The scenery is incredible. And there's something really relaxing about slowly watching Scandinavia change outside your window. You leave Stockholm and gradually head farther north through forests, lakes, tiny villages, and eventually into Arctic terrain. One thing that's interesting is it never really gets dark. We are approaching the longest day of the year, so that is something that is interesting to experience.
I looked up photos after you texted me, and it looks unbelievable.
It really is. And one thing people don't realize is how easy train travel is in that part of Europe. The trains are clean, efficient, and comfortable. You can walk to the dining car, sit and look out the panoramic windows, and honestly, it becomes part of the vacation rather than just transportation.
And Narvik itself has a lot of World War II history as well.
It does. Narvik was strategically important during World War II because of the iron ore shipping routes. There were major naval battles here between Allied and German force. There's a really interesting war museum in town that gives context to the region's history. Then today on our drive, we'll stop at the Arctic Circle Center, which is kind of a museum and visitor center marking the Arctic Circle crossing. It's one of those iconic road trip stops people remember forever.
Okay, I'm already jealous. Let's jump into this week's travel news because there's actually some pretty interesting developments happening right now. First up, Air New Zealand's SkyNest is finally open for booking. This has been talked about for years, and now travelers can actually reserve it. Mark, explain what this is, because people are hearing beds on airplanes and thinking this sounds futuristic.
It really does feel futuristic. Air New Zealand has been innovating long-haul travel for a while now. A few years ago, they introduced the SkyCouch, and now they're taking it another step further with SkyNest. So the SkyCouch is basically a row of economy seats where the leg rests lift up to create a couch-like surface. It's ideal for couples or families because you can stretch out sideways. It's still in the economy cabin, but it gives you much more room to relax. The SkyNest is different. This is an actual sleeping area built into the aircraft. Think of it almost like sleeper bunks on a train or capsule hotel beds. Travelers reserve a time slot to use one of these sleeping pods during the flight.
Which honestly makes sense because Flights to New Zealand are long.
Extremely long. From the U.S. West Coast, you're looking at 12 to 14 hours, depending on routing. From the East Coast, it's even longer. So Air New Zealand recognized that there are travelers willing to pay extra just to get several hours of real sleep. The SkyNest has 6 bunk-style sleeping pods with bedding, pillows, reading lights, USB charging, ventilation, and privacy curtains. You reserve it in blocks of time during the flight.
That sounds amazing, honestly.
Especially for people who struggle sleeping upright. This could be a game changer for ultra long haul travel. What I also appreciate is that Air New Zealand has always been very thoughtful about comfort innovations. The SkyCouch was brilliant for families because instead of paying business class pricing, a family could reserve an extra economy seat and create a little resting space for kids.
So if someone asked you which option is better, SkyCouch or SkyNest, how would you answer?
It depends on the traveler. Families with small children probably still benefit more from the SkyCouch because everyone can sit together and spread out. Couples also really like it, but for solo travelers or people who absolutely need sleep, SkyNest may be worth every penny. A few hours of actual horizontal sleep can completely change how you feel when arriving in New Zealand.
Especially because once you arrive, you want to enjoy New Zealand immediately.
Exactly. You don't want to lose 2 days recovering from jet lag.
All right. Next story. TSA has unveiled its new Gold Plus program as part of a broader shift toward private airport security partnerships. We talked about this a few weeks ago because more airports are experimenting with private security models.
And some airports have been doing this successfully for years. San Francisco International is one example. Kansas City is another. Travelers often don't even realize those security operations are privately contracted under TSA oversight.
And the feedback has actually been pretty positive.
Very positive in many cases. The idea is that private operators can sometimes be more flexible with staffing and customer service while still meeting federal standards. Now, this Gold Plus concept appears to be moving toward premium-style security experiences, faster screening, potentially more personalized assistance, and more efficient checkpoint operations.
Which honestly sounds like where air travel is heading overall.
It does. Airports are increasingly becoming segmented experiences. You already see that with lounges, expedited security, premium terminals internationally, and biometric screening. Travelers are willing to pay for less stress.
I think people underestimate how much stress airport security adds to travel.
Absolutely. If you can remove uncertainty and long waits, the trip starts better. That's why programs like TSA PreCheck and Global Entry became so popular.
Speaking of travel changes, our next story is something we've been talking about for months, preparing for Europe travel changes.
This is really important because Europe is entering a new era of tourism management. We're seeing new entry requirements, authorization systems, and increased emphasis on preparation before departure.
And one of the biggest upcoming changes is ETS.
Correct. ETIAS is Europe's new travel authorization system for visa-exempt travelers, including Americans. Right now, the expected launch is targeting late 2026. Once active, U.S. travelers will need both a valid passport and ETIAS authorization before traveling to many European countries.
And this isn't a visa.
Right, and that's important. It's more similar to the ESTA system that the U.S. already used when foreign travelers visit the United States, but people need to understand it's still mandatory.
Another thing people overlook is passport validity.
Huge issue. Many European countries require 6 months validity beyond travel dates. Every year, travelers get denied boarding because their passport expires too soon.
That would be devastating.
Completely avoidable, too. We always tell clients to check passports early, not a month before departure.
And you also recommend step enrollment through the State Department.
I do. STEP stands for Smart Traveler Enrollment Program. It lets the U.S. Embassy know you're traveling abroad. If there's an emergency, political unrest, natural disaster, or family emergency back home, they can contact you more easily.
Let's also talk about travel protection because honestly, Europe trips are expensive now.
They are. International travel protection has become increasingly important. Medical coverage abroad is one major factor. People assume their U.S. health insurance works internationally, and often it doesn't.
That's scary.
especially when medical evacuation can cost tens of thousands of dollars. We often recommend comprehensive plans for Europe trips, particularly for travelers taking cruises or multi-country itineraries.
All right, let's move into our hotel spotlight of the week, because this is one of your favorites in Hawaii, the Hilton Hawaiian Village Waikiki Beach Resort.
I absolutely love this property. It's one of my most recommended hotels in Waikiki.
And people may think, oh, it's a big resort hotel, but there's more to it than that.
Much more. First, the location is excellent. You're in Waikiki, close to shopping and restaurants, but the resort sits slightly apart from the densest part of Waikiki, so it feels more peaceful and relaxed. Second, it's huge, about 22 acres, which is rare in Waikiki. There are tropical gardens, koi ponds, multiple pools, and beachfront access. Third, the Rainbow Tower is iconic. People recognize it instantly from postcards and television, and I always recommend Diamond Head view rooms in that tower because the views are incredible.
Those sunrise views over Waikiki must be unbelievable.
They really are. Another reason I recommend it is because it feels more Hawaiian than some Waikiki hotels. There's more open space, more tropical atmosphere, and honestly, it almost feels like you're staying on an outer island while still being in Honolulu.
And families love it too.
Families absolutely love it because there's so much on site. Multiple pools, restaurants, lagoon activities, beach access. You can spend days there comfortably.
All right, now let's get into our main travel topic, because Janice texted the show asking about visiting the Marquesas Islands after watching an old season of Survivor filmed there. And by the way, if listeners have questions for the show, you can text or call us anytime at 801-649-3700. Hey, Mark, this is one of your favorite destinations in the world.
It really is. The Marquesas Islands are magical. They're remote, dramatic, culturally fascinating, and unlike almost anywhere else in French Polynesia. When most people think of Tahiti and French Polynesia, they picture Bora Bora overwater bungalows. The Marquesas are completely different. They're rugged volcanic islands with towering cliffs, waterfalls, deep valleys, horses roaming free, archaeological sites, and very little tourism infrastructure.
It sounds more adventurous.
Much more adventurous. And honestly, that's part of the appeal. These islands feel untouched.
So where exactly are they?
They're part of French Polynesia, but located about 900 miles northeast of Tahiti. That isolation is part of what preserved their culture and authenticity.
How do people get there?
There are two primary ways. The first is by cruise, and one of the most famous is the Aranui 5, which we've talked about before.
Which is part cargo ship and part passenger ship.
Exactly. It's one of the most unique cruise experiences in the world. The Aranui supplies the islands while carrying passengers. So you're literally watching cargo unload alongside cultural performances and excursions.
That sounds incredible.
It's immersive travel. You're not getting polished mega resort tourism. You're seeing real island life. The second option is flying. Air Tahiti operates flights from Tahiti to Nuku Hiva and Hiva Oa.
Are there hotels?
There are, though accommodations are limited and generally smaller boutique-style lodges or guest houses. On Nuku Hiva, people often stay at La Nuku Hiva by Pearl Resorts, which has beautiful views overlooking the bay. On Hiva Oa, there are small lodges and pensions. It's more about authenticity and location than luxury amenities.
So this is not a mass tourism destination.
Not at all. And that's exactly why many travelers love it.
Give us some history, because the Marquesas seem culturally rich.
Very much so. Polynesians settled the islands over 1,000 years ago and developed a sophisticated culture with art, tattoo traditions, navigation, and ceremonial sites. European explorers later arrived, including Captain Cook. The islands eventually became part of French Polynesia. One fascinating historical connection is artist Paul Gauguin. He spent his final years in Hiva Oa, and his grave is there today.
Okay, let's talk reasons to visit. If someone is debating whether this complicated trip is worth it, what would you say?
First, scenery. The islands are jaw-droppingly beautiful. Think Jurassic Park-style mountains and cliffs rising dramatically from the ocean. Second, culture. Marquesan culture is incredibly rich and distinct from Tahitian culture. Third, archaeology. There are ancient tiki statues, ceremonial platforms, and sacred sites hidden throughout the islands. Fourth, authenticity. You won't find crowds or mass tourism. And fifth, adventure. Hiking, horseback riding, snorkeling, village visits, and simply exploring remote landscapes make this an unforgettable destination.
It sounds like one of those trips people talk about forever.
Absolutely. This isn't just a beach vacation, it's transformational travel.
All right, let's finish segment 1 with this week's travel deal. Blue Planet Vacations is offering up to $200 off per person on custom-built South Pacific tours, including Tahiti, French Polynesia, Fiji, the Marquesas Islands, and the Cook Islands.
And this is a great opportunity because these trips are highly customizable. Some travelers want luxury resorts, others want adventure and island hopping. We can combine cruises, boutique lodges, overwater bungalows, cultural experiences, really tailor the trip to the traveler.
And honestly, after hearing this Marquesas discussion, I kind of want to go.
Once people see photos, they usually do.
All right, when we come back, we'll dive into cruise news, including Fiji small ship cruising, Viking's massive expansion plans, surviving sea days on transatlantic cruises, and Mark invites listeners to join him on a hosted British Isles sailing in 2027. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
They've literally traveled millions of miles to answer your travel-related questions. Yeah, they really have. You're listening to the Inside Travel Talk podcast and radio show, presented by BluePlanetVacations.com, America's best travel advisors. We'll be right back.
Inside Travel Talk is brought to you by TravelX Insurance Services. Their travel insurance plans can help protect you and your vacation. TravelX is known for their award-winning customer service and high claims paid rate. Contact Blue Planet Vacations at 888-718-7717 or blueplanetvacations.com for more information.
This is the Inside Travel Talk podcast and radio show, presented by BluePlanetVacations.com, America's best travel advisors. Call or text the show right now, 801-649-3700, 801-649-3700. And now, here are your hosts.
Welcome back to Inside Travel Talk. Time now for our cruise segment. And Mark, our first cruise story is actually really exciting because Blue Lagoon Cruises in Fiji has introduced its newest vessel, the MV Yasawa Princess II.
I'm genuinely excited about this because Blue Lagoon Cruises has long been one of the best ways to experience Fiji authentically.
And this is very different from a mainstream cruise.
Completely different. This is intimate small ship cruising focused on the Yasawa and Mamanusa Islands of Fiji. The new Yasawa Princess II only carries about 44 passengers maximum with roughly 22 crew members. That's an incredible crew to guest ratio.
So service becomes highly personalized.
Very personalized and very Fijian. Guests really connect with the crew and local culture. One thing I love about this ship is the panoramic windows in the cabins. Fiji is all about scenery, turquoise lagoons, volcanic islands, palm-lined beaches, and having those views directly from your cabin is fantastic.
And the ship seems designed around outdoor experiences.
Absolutely. The large decks are ideal for sunset viewing. They also have easier water access with hydraulic boarding platforms and tender boats that let guests visit secluded lagoons and villages larger ships can't reach.
I saw one feature that honestly sounds amazing, the sea pool.
That's such a fun idea. When anchored, they deploy this inflatable sea pool behind the ship, and guests can literally float in the water while drinks are served.
That sounds very Fiji.
It really does. Small ship cruising creates experiences larger vessels simply can't replicate.
All right, next story. Don't pack your passport in checked luggage. This came from a traveler who missed his cruise because his passport was inside his checked bag and they couldn't retrieve it before the ship departed.
This is one of the most important cruise travel tips we can give people. Never, ever put passports, medications, cruise documents, or valuables in checked luggage.
Because once that luggage disappears into the terminal system, retrieving it becomes very difficult.
Exactly. Cruise terminals move thousands of bags quickly. If your passport ends up inside one of those containers, finding it before departure can become impossible.
And cruises don't wait.
They generally cannot. Cruise ships operate on strict port schedules and international clearance.
What are some other important cruise travel tips?
First, I always recommend to arrive at least one day before your cruise. Flight delays happen constantly. And not having that pressure of flying same day, arriving at the airport, and then having to make it to the ship. All in the same day as second, carry medications in your carry-on bag. Third, print important documents, even if you have digital copies. Fourth, use luggage tags properly and clearly label bags. And fifth, if possible, use air tags or tracking devices in luggage. They can be extremely helpful.
Especially now when people travel with multiple bags.
Absolutely. And honestly, preparation reduces stress enormously.
All right, let's go to our caller question. Rebecca called and wants to take a transatlantic cruise, but she's worried about the number of sea days. She asked, is there enough to do?
I love this question because my answer has evolved over the years. When I first started cruising, 2 sea days felt long. I always wanted another port. Now, I love sea days.
That's what experienced cruisers always say.
It's true. Like a few years ago, I did a Hawaii to Tahiti cruise with 5 consecutive sea days. And honestly, it was wonderful.
What changed for you?
I realized sea days are part of the vacation. Modern cruise ships have so much to do, but they also give you permission to slow down and relax.
Which many people need.
Very much. People spend their normal lives overscheduled and overstimulated. Sea days let you decompress.
So what do you actually do during multiple sea days?
I usually balance activity and relaxation, but lean towards relaxation. I'll start on deck or my balcony watching the ocean, maybe attend a lecture or enrichment program, watch a movie, visit the buffet a few times, take a nap, watch sunset.
That honestly sounds wonderful.
And cruise lines know how to program sea days well. There are cooking demonstrations, live music, trivia, theater productions, fitness classes, and specialty dining.
Plus, people become surprisingly social on long cruises.
Very true. Sea days create community on board. You see the same people repeatedly, and conversations naturally happen.
All right, now to our main cruise topic, because Viking has announced plans for a dozen additional ocean and expedition ships by 2031.
This is huge news. Viking has been enormously successful because they've carved out a very specific niche, destination-focused cruising for adults.
And we talked recently about their quiet season cruises,
which are fantastic. Viking understands their audience very well. They focus on cultural enrichment, included excursions, educational programming, and elegant Scandinavian design.
And now they're expanding both ocean and expedition fleets.
Which tells you demand remains very strong for experiential cruising.
Let's specifically talk about expedition cruising, because you wanted to highlight one really unique itinerary, the Northwest Passage Expedition.
This is one of the most fascinating expedition itineraries available anywhere in the world. The cruise explores parts of Greenland and Arctic Canada while attempting the legendary Northwest Passage route that explorers searched for centuries.
Which historically was considered nearly impossible.
Exactly. This route became famous during the Age of Exploration because European powers desperately wanted a northern trade route between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans.
And now travelers can actually experience it.
Yes, though it remains highly dependent on ice conditions. That unpredictability is part of expedition cruising.
Walk us through some highlights.
The cruise typically begins in Greenland, which alone is extraordinary. You see enormous glaciers, colorful villages, and dramatic Arctic landscapes. Places like Ilulissat are unforgettable because of the massive iceberg fields floating through Disco Bay.
That's one of those bucket list places photographers dream about.
Absolutely. Then the itinerary ventures into remote Canadian Arctic regions, rarely visited by travelers. Some communities are accessible only a few months each year.
So you're seeing places very few humans ever visit.
Exactly. You may encounter Inuit communities, wildlife, including whales and polar bears, abandoned exploration sites, and vast untouched landscapes.
That sounds more like exploration than vacation.
Expedition cruising really is modern exploration, and Viking does an excellent job with onboard enrichment. Historians, scientists, naturalists, and expedition leaders help explain what you're seeing.
I imagine the scenery is just non-stop spectacular.
It is icebergs, fjords, tundra, Arctic wildlife, midnight sun, depending on season. It's mesmerizing.
Okay, let's move into our cruise deal of the week. Princess Cruises currently has its Discover the World sale, with up to 40% off fares and up to $400 off instantly, third and fourth guest sailing free on select voyages, and $99 deposits.
This is one of the stronger Princess promotions we've seen recently because it combines several incentives.
And this is a good time to book ahead.
Especially for Alaska, Europe, and holiday sailings, because those itineraries fill quickly.
And speaking of Princess Cruises, Mark is hosting a British Isles cruise in May 2027.
And I'm very excited about this sailing because I think it's one of the best British Isles itineraries available.
This is aboard the Majestic Princess and sails round trip from Southampton, England from May 13th through May 25th, 2027.
Correct. It's a 12-day sailing visiting England, Ireland, Northern Ireland, Scotland, and France. What I love about this itinerary is the diversity.
Walk us through some highlights because this route looks amazing.
We begin in Southampton, which makes a perfect gateway for London. There's also an optional 2-night London pre-cruise package that includes sightseeing like Westminster Abbey, Buckingham Palace, Churchill War Rooms, and a Thames River cruise.
That's a great add-on, honestly.
It really is, because London deserves extra time. Then the cruise visits Falmouth in Cornwall, one of the most scenic parts of England, with dramatic coastlines, fishing villages, and legends tied to King Arthur. Next is Cobh in Ireland, famous as Titanic's final port of call. Guests can visit Blarney Castle and kiss the Blarney Stone,
which every tourist has to do once.
Exactly. Then Dublin, Liverpool, Belfast, Glasgow, Invergordon, and Edinburgh.
That's an incredible lineup.
It really is. Edinburgh alone is worth the trip. Edinburgh Castle, the Royal Mile, Holyrood House. It's one of Europe's great cities.
And you also stop in Normandy, France.
Yes, Le Havre gives access to Normandy and Paris. Guests can visit the D-Day beaches, which are deeply moving historical sites.
This feels like a cruise packed with history.
Very much so. History, scenery, culture, castles, music heritage. It's incredibly rich.
And listeners can actually join you on this hosted sailing.
Absolutely. I'll be on board hosting, giving destination insights, helping organize group activities, and spending time with listeners throughout the trip.
Pricing starts around $21.39 per person for inside cabins.
Correct, and balcony cabins start around $27.39.
And honestly, British Isles cruises tend to book early because there's a limited season.
Exactly. Summer availability can disappear quickly. If you're interested, visit blueplanetvacations.com or give us a call at 888-718-7717.
All right, Mark, before we close, any final thoughts from Norway?
Just a reminder that travel experiences don't always have to be tropical beaches or famous landmarks. Sometimes it's a sleeper train through Scandinavia, tracing family history above the Arctic Circle, or driving through landscapes you'll remember forever. Those experiences stay with you.
I love that. All right, let's recap the show. This week, we talked about Air New Zealand's innovative new SkyNest sleeping pods and how they compare to the SkyCouch. We covered new airport security developments, including the TSA Gold Plus program and the continued shift toward private screening partnerships. We also discussed preparing for Europe travel changes, including ETIAS requirements, passport validity, and travel protection. Our hotel spotlight was the Hilton Hawaiian Village Waikiki Beach Resort, one of Mark's favorite Waikiki resorts, especially the iconic Rainbow Tower with diamond head views. Then we explored the incredible Marquesas Islands in French Polynesia and how travelers can reach them either by cruise or by air. Don't forget, Blue Planet Vacations is offering up to $200 off per person on custom South Pacific tours, including Tahiti, Fiji, the Marquesas, and the Cook Islands. In our cruise segment, we discussed Blue Lagoon Cruises' new Yasawa Princess 2 in Fiji, important cruise travel tips like never packing your passport and check luggage, and why sea days can actually become one of the best parts of cruising. We also talked about Viking's major expansion plans and their incredible Northwest Passage expedition cruises. And finally, we highlighted Princess Cruises' Discover the World sail, along with Mark's hosted British Isles cruise in May 2027. And if you'd like information on any of today's topics, visit blueplanetvacations.com or give us a call at 888-718-7717. Mark, thanks as always.
Thanks, Justin. Always fun to do the show.
And we'll leave you today with this quote from Anthony Bourdain. Travel isn't always pretty. It isn't always comfortable. Sometimes it hurts. It even breaks your heart. But that's okay. The journey changes you. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you next time on the Inside Travel Talk podcast.
That's it. That's the end of the show. You've been listening to the Inside Travel Talk podcast and radio show, presented by BluePlanetVacations.com. Book your adventure right now. Call 888-718-7717. That's 888-718-7717. Thanks for listening. Have a great week.
This segment of Inside Travel Talk is sponsored by Star Clippers. For over 30 years, Star Clippers has offered unique, authentic tall ship sailing experiences featuring creative itineraries throughout the Mediterranean, Caribbean, and Central America. To book your unique Star Clipper sailing adventure, contact Blue Planet Vacations at 888-718-7717 or blueplanetvacations.com.